When they reached their teenage years, something changed, and there seemed to be, I don't know, there certainly seemed to be a lack of empathy.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 deadliest families in history.
The great mystery of the whole thing is what drove them to do this.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most lethal criminal families in history. We're only looking at relatives and romantic partners who committed murders together. No communes who called themselves family. So, no Manson family here. Do any of these stories shock you? Let us know in the comments. The Cray Twins. Born in London in 1933, Ronald and Reginald Cray became infamous for leading The Firm, a gang in London's East End. The Firm earned profit and notoriety through organized criminal acts, including armed robberies, protection rackets, and murder.
The twins did indeed commandeer whatever they wanted, whether it was money, material items, or manpower.
One of the twins' most notable victims was Jack the Hat McVitie, who failed to fulfill a contract with the gang. After failing to shoot the Hat, Reginald Cray attacked him with a knife.
It was a messy, really messy job, what they did of him anyway. It took a long time to kill him, apparently. It was a bad scene.
In 1968, the twins were arrested and sentenced to life in prison for their crimes. As nightclub owners in the swinging 60s, the Crays knew many celebrities, some of whom campaigned for their release. However, these campaigns were short-lived, in part thanks to the twins' violent conduct in prison.
The Crays did their sorry best to live their lives in prison, whilst clinging to a name and reputation that was being diluted by each and every embarrassing charade that was being carried out by their minions.
The Kelly family. The Kelly family gained their spot among the deadliest families in history for murdering unsuspecting travelers. In 1869, the family moved from Pennsylvania to Kansas and opened up a tavern for passing travelers. However, over the following months, those heading toward the tavern started disappearing. Suddenly, in December of 1887, the family left their home. A traveler stumbled upon the house and was overtaken by a strange odor. In the cellar, he found 3 dead bodies. Authorities searched the house and found more corpses, including that of a famous Chicago drummer. After the gruesome discovery, vigilantes tracked down the family in Texas. Shockingly, those who knew the Kellys considered them an ordinary working family, never suspecting their heinous crimes. The Staffelbach family. In the 1890s, Nancy Staffelbach moved with her children to Kansas, turning their new home into a brothel. One summer evening, a miner named Frank Galbraith arrived to see Nancy's daughter Emma, but was turned away. A drunk Frank returned in the early morning, leading to a confrontation that ended with Nancy's son Ed fatally shooting him. After authorities raided the brothel and arrested the family, Nancy's daughter-in-law Cora and another woman named Rose confessed that the family had committed numerous other murders. The number of the family's victims remains unknown, adding an eerie mystery to the story of the notorious Staffelbach family. The Briley Brothers. In 1971, 16-year-old boy Linwood Briley shot and killed his 57-year-old neighbor, landing him in reform school.
His lack of remorse for the death of the elderly neighbor was shocking.
His response, according to the documents, was, well, she was going to die anyway.
This violent episode was a taste of what was to come. From March to October 1979, Linwood and his brothers James and Anthony embarked on a bloody murder spree in Richmond, Virginia.
The Briley gang had been on a 7-month violent spree that had caused devastation all over the city.
The level of violence was horrifying.
With accomplice Duncan Meekins, they robbed and killed at least 11 people. The brothers left a trail of terror through Richmond, and after they were caught, Linwood and James were sentenced to death.
Linwood Briley was apparently fearless.
I said, you know, this is serious. You could get the electric chair. He threw up his arms and said, take it like a man.
In 1984, they escaped prison, but were recaptured. Anthony and Duncan were given life sentences and remain incarcerated. The Gang of Amazons. Led by matriarch Inessa Traverdieva, this killer family from Stavropol, Russia, was dubbed the Gang of Amazons by the media. It consisted also of Inessa's husband Roman and her daughters Victoria and Anastasia. From 2007 to 2013, the family pillaged the North Caucasus. After numerous armed robberies and murders, the family was captured on September 8, 2013. Roman died at the hands of police, while the rest were found guarding at least 20 firearms at a campsite. While the family's motives were unclear, Inessa told the authorities that she was, quote, a gangster by nature, and considered their killings as just another day's work. Fred and Rose West. In 1969, two future serial killers met at a bus stop, and the rest is history. From 1971 to 1987, Rose and Fred West sought out female victims in Gloucestershire, England.
So now you can see that they slowly but surely crafted this into a refined, scavenging, predatory, stalking family sort of unit that could, as it were, take people off the streets very, very efficiently.
After torturing and murdering them, the Wests buried them in their cellar, earning their home the moniker the House of Horrors. Among Rose's victims was her husband's young daughter, Charmaine. The law caught up with the couple in 1994 when they were arrested.
Despite the mounting evidence against him, he seemed remarkably unperturbed.
He's a 54-year-old man then, he's had a long run. He's got away with it all his life. His mindset is one of, you know, I'm probably caught, but who gives a damn now?
Rose was convicted of 10 murders and sentenced to life in prison, while Fred took his own life before he could be convicted.
And I was absolutely gutted. I wanted him to pay the proper price. And he just took his own way out and had his own way about what happened to him. He was in control right to the end.
However, before he died, he confessed to 30 murders, meaning there may even be more out there than the police know about. The Truro murders. A gruesome discovery was made in the South Australian town of Truro on April 20th, 1978, when mushroom hunters stumbled on the remains of 18-year-old Veronica Knight, who had been missing since Christmas.
Two locals at Truro were out mushrooming and came across a number of bones. They initially thought they were leg bones from a kangaroo. However, they thought about it overnight and the next morning went back and had another look.
A year later, police discovered another body in the same area, that of 16-year-old Sylvia Pittman. Thanks to a tip-off, they were eventually led to laborer James Miller, who had killed a series of women with his partner, Christopher Worrell.
In October 1976, both had been released from prison. Just 2 months later, on December 23rd, Veronica Knight had disappeared, her remains being the first discovered in Truro. 6 more innocent women had vanished.
Miller and Worrell had met in prison and begun a romantic relationship. But in 1977, Worrell died in a car accident. In total, the remains of 7 women were discovered. Miller was sentenced to 6 life sentences.
As the murders were going along, it was just getting too late to do anything. Like I should have done something after the first one, but as it got to 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just getting too late to do anything.
Miller says he kept quiet about the murders for fear of losing his best friend.
The Pokyanches. From 1950 to 1964, these 4 sisters ran a prostitution ring known as Rancho El Angel in the state of Guanajuato, Mexico. Together, Delfina, Maria de Jesus, Carmen, and Maria Luisa Gonzalez Valenzuela would kidnap women or lure them with false promises and set them to work on their property. When they could no longer work, the sisters would kill them. They would also murder customers who brought lots of cash with them. Eventually, after one woman escaped the property, it was raided and the sisters were brought to justice. 3 of them died in prison. All told, it's believed that they killed at least 91 people, but their victim count may have been over twice that. The Bean Clan. Historians debate whether this tale is true, but the legend is certainly terrifying. Led by the infamous Sawney Bean, the Bean Clan was supposedly a family of cannibals in Scotland during the 16th century. The clan consisted of patriarch Sawney, his wife, 14 children, and 32 grandchildren, who lived in a cave on the coast. The clan allegedly killed and cannibalized over 1,000 people over the span of 25 years. Their remote location apparently allowed them to get away with their crimes for years, but eventually they were caught and executed. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. The Bloody Benders. Like the Kelly family, this family of serial killers ran an inn in Kansas in the late 19th century. The family consisted of John and his wife Elvira and their children John Jr. and Kate, although some claim that the latter were spouses rather than siblings. It's said that the family would invite travelers to sit at a table positioned over a trap door. After killing their victims, they'd drop them through the trap door into the cellar. In 1873, a search party uncovered their horrific deeds, but the family escaped. Stories about their final fate are inconsistent. They may have been milled by vigilantes or moved state and changed their names. There's also speculation that they went on to become the Kelly family.